another faffing around video. So I wanted to try something. I tried something, and it was the cheese rind from Hard Italian Cheese, gratis, if we're going to be clever about it. You save them and you put them in risottos for extra flavour, and then as you're cooking the risotto, the cheese rind is in there and it flavours the risotto a little bit more. Then you throw the cheese rind away, and then you can put it in like tomato sauces as well, and it just adds that little bit of flavour without kind of wasting the cheese rind, because you normally just throw it away. But so I made a video on it, and I kind of I came to the conclusion that it's worth doing. It's a little bit of flavour, adds a little another depth of flavour, and generally in cooking, my attitude is you don't notice one little thing that you do in cooking. So adding the cheese rinds, you don't really notice it, but you do 10 of those little things for a dish, or 5 of those little things, and it makes a huge amount of difference. And that's generally the difference between good cooking and great cooking and exceptional cooking. It's just lots of little things that just make that little bit of difference. So it's kind of worth saving your cheese rinds and using them for things. Freeze them. Don't leave them in the fridge because they'll start to go a little bit mouldy. So I've got 5, and I was watching I seem to remember at the end of the video, I tasted the cheese rind. It tasted all right, because it's not actually a cheese rind is something that naturally forms. It's not something that you actually put on the cheese like a coating or anything like that. It's just a hardened cheese from the outside. So by cooking it in a sauce or in a stock or in a risotto, you soften it up. And I was kind of thinking, well, if we're reconstituting that hard rind, which is just essentially hard cheese, really, then we could eat it, and we could use it in a dish. And so why would you make a tomato sauce with cheese rind in and then throw the cheese rind away? Surely just chop up the cheese rind and leave it in the sauce. That was my thought. So let's have a go at that. So I've been to the market today. I've talked about this before, and on the market there's a couple of fruit and veg stalls, and what they do is they go and buy fruit that's just getting a little bit past its best, and they sell it cheap. So they'll go to the wholesalers, kind of say to the wholesalers, what have you got that you want getting rid of, that's getting a little bit close to its past its best, and they'll buy a lot of, like, so in the summertime there's normally loads of strawberries, and they sell them cheap. So they had so today they had lots of things, but it was at the end of the day. So they had cherry tomatoes. So I bought all these cherry tomatoes for £1. And I just weighed them. There's about 1.2 kilos worth of cherry tomatoes for £1. I think that's a bargain, considering that you buy a tin of tomatoes for about 30 or about 32p for a tin of tomatoes, and in a tin, like 3 tins of tomatoes would be about 1.2 kilos worth of tomatoes. So it's kind of a bargain, is that? So I'm going to make some. I need some more tomato sauce, so I'm going to turn these into tomato sauce. Anyway, so we're going to cook the cheese rinds in them. I'm not going to put anything else in other than just the tomatoes and the cheese rinds, and then it'll take. I'm going to cook it slowly, so it'll take quite a while for it to cook. We might just squish a few of these tomatoes to start off the cooking process, and then what we'll do is we will cook some pasta, and we'll use the cheese rinds in the pasta as like the meaty element to the pasta. I'm gonna have to smash a few of these up just to kind of start off the cooking process, just so we don't want them frying. I just want them to release a bit of juice, and then the steam from the juice will start off the cooking process, and then we'll form a sauce. So they're cooking for a couple of hours, which lots of the liquid will evaporate off, and then it will form a nice rich tomato sauce, which I'm going to use something else, but no, actually I was going to buy I was just going to use tin tomatoes, but it seems I was on the market and these were cheap, and it was at the end of the day. There is that fine line, so you kind of want to go as late as possible to the market when the veg stalls are wanting to sell off what they've got, but you don't want to leave it too late that they've got nothing left. So that would be enough juice coming out of the tomatoes, and then we'll put turn the temperature up a little bit and put a lid on it so they'll start to steam in their own juices. And then see, I'm waffling away, 5 minutes already. So much for short videos. And then the cheeses will impart flavour into the tomato sauce, and they'll reconstitute with the liquid that's in there. So we'll be back in a couple of hours when the sauce has been cooking. We might also just take the lid off a little bit so some of the excess moisture can evaporate off, and therefore concentrating the flavour of the sauce. Right, so already the cheese rinds have softened up like that. So already they've softened up, so I don't know why we wouldn't. And they've coloured the what we put in the liquid as well, so there's certainly going to be a lot of flavour in there. So we'll have a look at them after we've cooked them for a while. But I think if we just cook some spaghetti and use that as a sauce for the spaghetti, and chop up the cheese rinds, I think that would make a nice, cheap pasta dish. But anyway, I'm going to cook it for another couple of hours, something like that, just to drive off some of that moisture, just with the lid slightly to the side, like that, and then we can evaporate off some of that excess liquid, and it will concentrate it. Some Italian chefs and some people who cook Italian food talk about removing the seeds from tomatoes because they make them bitter. Make a sauce bitter. I've never. Maybe my palate's slightly different, but I've never found that to be true. Really, I probably should do a comparison. There's an idea for a video. We'll do a comparison. We'll do a fresh tomato sauce with tomatoes. We'll just use the tomato pulp, and then we'll do a tomato sauce with all the tomatoes in seeds and skin, and see what it turns out like. That'll be interesting. That'll be an interesting video for me, anyway. But anyway, let that cook for a couple of hours, and then we'll have some pasta when I get in from swimming. So, tomato sauce is ready. Well, it was ready before I went swimming, so it was ready in about an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. We've got from 1.2 kilos worth of cherry tomatoes. We've got about 800 grams worth of sauce. It's a little bit wet there. It could do with pureeing, but I'm going to use that there to finish off this pasta. And then these are the bits of, I hate it when spoons do that. And then these are the bits of hard cheese, which they went really soft. They went really soft and melted, but now they've just firmed up because they've just gone a little bit cooler. So what we're going to do, I've tasted it before and it's fine to eat, so we're going to chop it up. We'll use some scissors because it looks a little bit like pork skin, so I don't want to see. Yeah, look at that, it looks like pig's rind. So we'll use the scissors now. I don't make a mess of the board or chop through with a knife. The scissors are just easy, and then we'll throw these in. So they just taste cheesy, like cheesy rinds, really. So they can go in and they'll start to soften up. I'm just cooking the pasta in a little bit of water, and then what happens is we can form a sauce with all the starch that comes out of the pasta. Normally the pasta, all the starch that comes out of the pasta gets lost in the pasta water, but if you cook it in a little bit of water, you get to keep all that starch, and then that's what the sauce kind of forms from. So if you were to add cheese to that, well, let it reduce down a bit and add some of that liquid there and a bit of cheese towards the end, and take it off the heat once you've added the cheese, or take it off the heat and then add the cheese. You can form a sauce like pasta alla Grizia and cacio e pepe and carbonara, but I'm not going to add any cheese because we've got these cheese bits, and it's going to be like a cheap meal. I think with the state of the world and the cost of food, I think it's quite important to show what you can do with cheap ingredients rather than you know, it's a lot easier to take expensive, well-flavoured ingredients and make a nice meal out of them than it is to take cheaper ingredients and do something a little bit special with them and get some more flavour out of them. You just have to work a little bit harder. It takes a little bit more skill. I think that's what people kind of forget. It's all very well showing people how to use expensive ingredients, but not everyone can afford really expensive ingredients. So they're going to go in like that. Pasta's almost cooked, but you can see how, I'll show you. It starts to, the liquid starts to thicken up because of the starch from the pasta. So you'll just kind of see, it's just a little bit more. So as we cook it more, the cheese will melt, will get soft, and the liquid in there will thicken up, and then we'll just add a bit more of that liquid from there. Make a mess of another spoon. Oh. Bit of parmesan there. No, it's not parmesan. It's cheap Italian cheese. And we'll take some of this here and add these wet bits. And so lots of fat came out of the cheese and flavoured this sauce. So that's will help thicken the sauce as well. And then we'll just stir in at the very end some of these cherry tomatoes, just to kind of finish it off and make it look a lot nicer. But almost there. So the adding that bit of the sauce will flavour the pasta, because pasta's bland without sauce. So we just need to flavour the pasta, and pasta will take on the flavour of these. It's cherry tomato and cheese rind sauce, and then we'll get to use the cherry tomatoes in something else. So just a little bit more. So that's about the right amount of liquid. So if I was to add some grated cheese, I'm not going to. If I was to add some great hard Italian cheese, a gratta, I'd add it now. So that amount of sauce in the bottom would mix with the cheese and form a delicious sauce. And let's just taste these bits of. See, they've gone. It's gone really soft now. So you'd never know. That was cheese rind. That bit's just gone on the floor. Right. It needs pepper. Quite a lot of pepper, but it needed it. I'm trying to let the heat down. So, I think that works. Yeah, so I'm not. Instead of using cheese rinds and throwing them away, from now on, chop them up and put them in the sauce, or put them in the pasta. You know, it's they're delicious. So there we go. Right. So as you can see, so that's kind of formed. That's coated. It's a bit steamy, but it's coated the pasta. So it's formed its own sauce through the starch and through a little bit of that liquid. And I just want a little bit more of those going through it, just for a bit of interest. And that's going to be my delicious dinner. So we'll twirl it with a fork, move that out of the way, get another bowl. Edible. Right. And then twiddly twiddly. And then another one. See, it's really coating the pasta. Ooh, heat's still on, don't need the heat on anymore. Like that, so that's a better one, so that can go on top. And like that. And let's get some of that. Get another spoon out. Put that one in the wash already. Lick my fingers because I'm an animal. And then we just want a bit of that. Pick out those bits of cheese rind for the top. And you know, I can't. Italian food basically comes from the poor, and I can't imagine that someone in Italy would throw away the cheese rind once they'd used it. I think they'd chop it up and put it in the pasta. There we go. There we go. Never throw your cheese rinds away. Cook with them, and then put them in the dish.